Ladies and gentlemen, this is the main event of the evening.
Hold one, Andre.
You're not good at this. Get out. Let me tell you a personal story about Vince McMahon.
You just made the list.
Oh my God.
Sorry, no speak English.
Dummy. Goodbye and good night. Hold two, on bar.
It's still real to me, damn it.
Dummy.
This is the worst town I've ever been in.
Hold three, Lamas covers, three-handle family Gradunzel.
Mamma mia!
And now, Unchained.media presents the B Plus Podcast with your host, Greg Unchained.
It's me, Austin. It was me all along, Austin.
Number 4, Armbar.
I will never retire.
I still got 200 more. I got 200 more holes to list.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen out there in the B Plus land. It is me, Mr. Mysterious, talking to you guys here for the Impact Zone. I'm flying solo this week because our super producer Greg is unfortunately reviewing all the other wrestling content coming out of WrestleMania week. We have a lot of stuff. We just finished Road to G1. We've had TakeOver. We've had the Hall of Fame ceremony. We're going to have WrestleMania tomorrow. There's a whole bunch of wrestling news coming out, guys. But you know what? Don't worry. We got your back. We've got you covered with all this stuff. And I'll be covering all this stuff later on in the week as well. And we'll probably have some recaps of all the amazing content that's happened out of this week. So if you bear with me, guys, I'm going to be flying solo talking about the Impact Zone because it's a special episode of the Impact Zone because we're covering not only the latest episode of Impact Wrestling, but the main event, United We Stand, the big pay-per-view collaboration between all the stars from MLW, Lucha Underground, AAA, WrestlePro. They've all united to form this really great non-canon event. It's the second one they've done, and it's just a really good time to have in this big cornucopia of wrestling shows that we have. It's good to have a nice little show where it's like full of nice reunions, but at the same time, it still gives you an entertaining time. So I'm going to be talking to you guys about first off United We Stand because that one came first. And we're going to start with, I should say, the number one contenders match for the X Division Championship in an Ultimate X match. My, how I've missed these. It was between Jake Christ versus Dante versus Pat Buck versus Ace Austin versus Johnny Impact. Now, for those of you wondering, I thought there were 6 people if you've been following this. I believe Koto Brazil with MLW, who was representing, he got injured at some point, or he had to be pulled out for some unknown reason. So it was out of 5 people. It didn't impact the match, I feel. Ultimate X usually, it works well with 5 or 6 people regardless. This was a fun time, like normal episode of Impact, where you open straight up with a big match full of big spots here. Now, before I get into this, I should mention, now, me watching this, it might have been how I watched United We Stand, but the stream of this and the production value for this show, as much as I enjoyed United We Stand, guys, it was awful. I mean, I don't know what happened. I try and be devil's advocate and say maybe they just underestimated the ambience, or I don't know, something to try and justify what's happened. But you know what? It was pretty shit. And there was a big spotlight focusing on the wrestlers the moment they came out. It didn't gel well the moment they came out to do their poses, and when they positioned themselves on the entrance ramp, it didn't look really good. The crowd was muted. Some people saying that the crowd sucked, but no, you can tell that they were definitely muted to an extent. They didn't understand the level of audio because you could hear the announcers and you could hear some of the crowd. So for the most of this entire show, despite being a great show, the production value made it seem like no one gave a shit. But we give a shit because this is the Impact Zone, and I love to talk about Impact Wrestling with you guys. And it was just a real shame. I don't know what happened. Hopefully it's a learning experience for them going into Rebellion in a couple weeks, because man, it did dampen some moments throughout this entire event, and we need to call them out on this shit. Hopefully they learn. And there were even spots where there was complete silence. There was delayed reactions from wrestlers coming out. Like there was, I think the Lucha Brothers, man, they were like, we waited about 2 minutes for them. We waited about 2 minutes for Jimmy Havoc. He just walked out. Like what I'm trying to say is like just the production value and the timing. There was just something that was not meshing. Despite being a great non-canon show, there were some issues. So we'll get into the Ultimate X match, which I did find enjoyable in terms of an action standpoint, in terms of my whole enjoyment of the show. Johnny Impact worked really well here. We didn't really cover much of the history beforehand. Again, this is a non-canon show, but Jake Christ, he was the big standout for me in this Ultimate X match because he's obviously the highlight of OVE. For those of you who've been following our Impact episodes over the past few weeks, there was a big Tower of Doom spot and the corner with Buck getting the best of it. We saw a lot of stuff like Pat Buck. Big fan of seeing the indie scene here. Ace Austin continually impressing everybody in MLW and Impact. Love talking about him. Really solid match that you had a big spot by freaking Ace Austin climbing onto the top of one of the structures for Ultimate X. He could have grabbed the Ultimate X, but no, did a big bloody swanton dive. It didn't look like people caught him. It looked like he landed a bit hard on his back or something. Like he just landed a bit high, but he shrugged it off. But man, it looked ugly. He's a crazy bastard. The match ultimately concluded though. So Johnny hit Dante with a springboard Spanish fly. Ace climbed across the ropes, but Jake's take took him down with a really great cutter from the top rope. Again, standout from this Ultimate X match, and it left one man left. Johnny Impact retrieved the X to win the match and become the number one contender for the X Division Championship. This is surprising. I don't know if it means that because we have Brian Cage versus Johnny Impact for Rebellion in a few weeks, as I mentioned earlier, whether I don't see him being a dual champion. It feels weird to have him competing against Rich Swann at this stage. Like, if I had to say it, if I had to hazard a guess, I feel like they would probably hopefully put the title on Cage, and then maybe if they want to keep the whole dual dynamic that Johnny has with his wife Taya, like being the double champions, at the very least they could have him have the X Division title, so they can still have that dynamic and it kind of plays well. But this was a very weird decision. It wasn't mentioned on the latest episode of Impact as well, so I'm not sure when exactly he's going to cash it in. Whether he can actually say on a random episode of Impact, I'm going to cash in my opportunity. Who knows? I don't see him being a dual champion. I would not like the idea of the Impacts or the Hennigans, whatever you want to call them, having all the gold. It would not be a great time. But the reason that Johnny Impact was part of this match is because originally he was being a part of Team Impact versus Team Lucha. So Team Impact versus Team Lucha, and he realized that he was teaming up with Brian Cage, and he said, you know what, I'm good, and he left them in the dust. So we had the next match with Tommy Dreamer, Brian Cage, Eddie Edwards, and Moose, Team Impact, going up against Team Lucha, which was Drago, Aerostar, Daga, and Marty the Moth Martinez. So Tommy Dreamer filled in for Johnny Impact in this, and he seems like the go-to guy at this point for we need someone to help out with a 6-man tag, or we need someone to help out with a big spot. Again, I've said it before and I'll say it again. Tommy Dreamer is a great supporting wrestler. He's not his days are behind him, because he's a very slow, methodical wrestler when he tries to rely on his hardcore stuff more. So unless you have big comedic spots for him, yeah, he can't carry a match, but he's a great supporting guy. So they just found Tommy Dreamer just on the side of the road somewhere, just like, you want to help out? Okay. Cage was on fire. We had a lot of like mesh up between the Team Lucha and Team Impact. You had Brian Cage going up against Daga. You had Tommy Dreamer going up against Marty the Moth Martinez. There were some great spots between everybody. That there was a weird, like, I could stomach this, but I just like, what are we doing with the spit spots and the weird spray spots? But Eddie Edwards passed Tommy Dreamer a bottle of water. He spat it down into Eddie's mouth again, and then Eddie used it to spray into Team Lucha's face. Just like, okay, I'll allow it. They're getting really creative and uncomfortable with all the weird spots they're doing. But it's entertainment for some, so whatever they can do to keep things going. Because yeah, it feels weird talking about like just whatever they can do to keep things afloat when the production value was absolute crap for this episode of United We Stand, this big pay-per-view collaboration. But back to the match. So we had Aerostar flying in, like Drago. Like, we had all these spots on the outside. Aerostar hit a rolling cut on Eddie. Eddie hit Aerostar with the Blue Thunder Bomb. And I was wondering throughout this match, just the weird mesh up of Team Impact, just saying like, well, what's Moose doing here? And sure enough, no sooner did I think that throughout the match, the Moose betrayed Team Impact and speared Brian Cage just out on a whim. Like, the match was going Team Impact's way, and then all of a sudden he just feels like, you know what, I'm going to spear Brian Cage. And he starts celebrating. Tommy Dreamer whacks him with a cane or a kendo stick. The other guys boot Moose out onto the outside. They get distracted. Marty connects with a DDT onto Tommy Dreamer, scoring the win. Team Lucha are victorious. It was a weird end to this big collaboration. I did enjoy myself. It was honestly just nice to see the Lucha guys all together. Like, especially like Marty the Moth Martinez, who, like, if you watch Season 4 of Lucha Underground, you'll see what I'm talking about. Moving right along to the Knockouts Championship Fatal 4-Way match, we had Taya Valkyrie going against Rosemary versus Jordan Grace versus Katie Forbes. For those of you unfamiliar with Katie Forbes, she is the girlfriend of Rob Van Dam. She is an accomplished wrestler in her own right, although she hasn't had much attention on the indie scene, and I feel like this is one of the clauses that RVD said to actually get himself on to United We Stand card, saying, I'll do it if she can, which, you know, fair enough. She had a good show. This was a solid match for Taya. Like, of course, Taya actually won this match after Jordan did all the work. She hit her driver onto Katie Forbes. Taya knocked her out of the way. She took the pinfall, and of course, Taya retained. Not surprising, because again, this is a non-canon show. Having the championship, like, we know who's going to win if it's a title on the line, but you know what? It was still a fun match. Rosemary locked her upside down onto Jordan Grace. It looked like she was actually going to win at some stage, but then during the match, Su Yung made an appearance. They didn't reference last week's episode of Impact, like the Undead Realm, in this, but you can kind of connect the dots why exactly she was coming out. So Rosemary just like saw her up the ramp, just went, oh hell no, just went barraged after her and left Katie Forbes and Taya, and yeah, that's how it happened. Taya, sneaky win. She's doing great as the heel. Johnny is getting there. Who knows how it's going to go. We had our next match. This one I was really excited for personally, because I'm the guy who reviews MLW. It was LAX, Santana and Ortiz with Conan going up against Promociones Dorado, Loki, and Ricky El Sicario Martinez. I love the build up to this from the Press Play podcast that Impact does. I believe that's what it's called, because they're actually referencing the history that Loki has with Conan in MLW, because he flat out shanked him like that. He just shanked him, and he's just saying how apparently he didn't learn his lesson. So they didn't acknowledge it on United We Stand, but during the Press Play, it was nice that they just added a little bit of extra. They meshed the history of Impact and MLW to make this narrative, even though I believe Loki is teaming up with LAX for was for House of Glory or for another show, they're teaming up again. There's a ongoing relationship with LAX. It's complicated. It's complicated is what we're saying. But I was really looking forward to this match, being a big fan of Low-Ki as I am. I will say I was disappointed in this match because it's one of those matches where the competitors knew what each other were capable of, and they're kind of sizing each other up too much, and it kind of stopped before it started. Those kind of matches with Low-Ki I don't really like, but they're more hard-hitting when they just fully unleash themselves, which, to be fair, they had an Impact episode the very next day. Understandable, they want to maintain their stamina, but aside from that, it was a good show between both teams. Low-Ki locked in a cross arm breaker on Santana early on. Low-Ki and Martinez, they wore down Santana until he was able to make the hot tag to Ortiz. Ortiz looked pretty solid in this. It's weird seeing Promotional Dorado come out without Selena. If Selena was there, I think I would have felt better about this. But for some reason, just her not being there, it felt so weird. It felt so uncomfortable watching these two fight, which, again, with Low-Ki's history with LAX, with him being one of the TNA originals, yeah, very weird times. But I got over it halfway through the match. Low-Ki was perched up on the top, but Santana clipped his knee, sending him flying out to the outside. Elliott connected a double team cutter onto Martinez. Low-Ki hit a springboard kick on Ortiz into an electric chair from Martinez for a near fall, and then Ortiz hit Martinez with a Death Valley driver to win the match. Team Impact win this one at least. So it was kind of a balanced thing with Impact versus the other promotions, how they had a few matches where the other teams, they kind of won, more or less. My favorite match on the card, I think, the one I was most looking forward to, was Tessa Blanchard going up against Joey Ryan in an intergender match, because we had Against All Odds last week where we had Scarlett Bordeaux in her debut go up against Glenn Gilberti, Disco Inferno. Successful. She's now undefeated in Impact Wrestling. And this is how a true intergender match should be, because Tessa, she was pissed off at Joey for being involved in this, saying, you got famous for what's between your legs, but I'm going to make him my bitch. And just, it feels like the go-to phrase to kind of pop an audience is bitch. It's just, I don't know. But it was really fun to see Joey Ryan. It's been about 5-6 years since we've seen him in Impact Wrestling, so it was just a fun time. Of course, they did all the Joey Ryan spots. He tried to get her to touch it. He did the penis plex. They did the Tootsie Pops super kick combination, all that jazz. I love that Tessa, she kind of scouted there was no spots where she tried to kick Joey between the legs, because she scouted him that well. There was one where it looked like she was going to go for the Shattered Dreams, but then hit her Magnum Codebreaker thing. It was beautiful. Again, she's one of the most solid wrestlers, male or female, on the Impact roster, and this was completely proof positive why. So, sure enough, yeah, Joey Ryan, after his big penis plex, Tessa countered into a superplex attempt into the Magnum Codebreaker off the top rope. 1, 2, 3. Tessa is the victor. This was the most fun match on the card, I will have to say. We had an X Division Championship match between Rich Swann versus Flamita for the X Division Championship. Swann flew all around on the top, over the top rope, crashing into Flamita on the floor. Flamita was next to fly as he sends his body into Swann's. This was the big. We didn't have much Lucha spots in the Lucha match versus Impact match. So this Impact X Division one, this kind of made up for it, which is weird to say because we had Ultimate X at the start of it. But you know what? And of course, the match ended with Rich Swann. He delivered a Phoenix Splash and defeated Flamita for the title. Makes sense. Again, non-canon show. He's not going to lose the title here. He's still facing his feud with Sami Callihan at Rebellion in another few weeks. But you know what? For what it was, and Flamita is one of the biggest stars from AAA. He's been here for World Series Wrestling, and of course, Rich Swann has just been announced for World Series Wrestling as well. So we'll see what they have in store for us. Who knows? Maybe they'll renew their feud, if you can call it that, on a WSW show on a whim. That would be lovely to see. This next one I was a little bit worried about, guys. We had Sami Callihan versus Jimmy Havoc in a Monsters Ball match. It was really, I was pulling for this because I remember vividly the last time I saw these two face off in MLW. It was the spin the wheel, make the deal match, and it made absolutely no goddamn sense. And I was worried because, again, it took like Jimmy Havoc a good 2 minutes to come out for this match. Again, production value was absolutely bollocks shit. And he didn't come out with music either. Not the mood you want to set for a big Monsters Ball match between these two renowned deathmatch wrestlers. But you know what? They did all their spots, and I'm happy to say that it washed away the taste of the MLW match off my mind. We had a couple spit spots, but nothing as putrid as Sami Callihan has been as of late. It was more him displaying how vile he can be rather than actually like spitting at his opponent, and just thinking about it now makes me want to gag. We had the staple gun spots. We had Havoc did a sunset flip, but Callihan countered by stapling his forehead. Like Callihan squeezed lemon into open wounds. Havoc then did paper cuts and literally threw salt in the wounds. We got these big ass Lego blocks, which like that kind of took me out of it because that's not Lego. That's just like the plastic shit. That's not actual Lego. Like that, it looks like it's Lego, but it's not the stuff that you walk on and it really hurts your bloody feet. I'm thinking the tiny pieces of Lego. Like just seeing that was like, you couldn't have put the extra effort to actually do real Lego in this match. It was a bit disheartening. So the match ended with Sami Callihan doing his thumbs up, thumbs down onto the quote-unquote Lego, but then he also did another one onto two chairs for the victory, which I'm glad they didn't end on the Lego spot because I've seen proper Lego used in death matches, and yeah, it was a good spot to end on, like that whole visual. But yeah, next time, guys, have the balls to actually get proper Lego. It was a bit disheartening. And we ended this with the Impact Tag Team Champions, the Lucha Brothers, Pentagon and Rey Fenix, going up against the team of Sabu and Rob Van Dam. Before this match, RVD and Sabu tried to cut a promo, and Sabu looked so uncomfortable. Oh my god, I'm trying to remember if I've ever seen him do a promo. If he has, it's very rare. But RVD was trying to coax some stuff out of him, but because he was like hyping himself up as he always does, like because he's Rob Van Dam. But he's trying to like say stuff for the team, like, yeah, remember back in ECW and all this stuff. And Sabu's just like, yep, they're the Lucha Brothers, and just, he seems so like out of his depth. I felt so bad for him, but we had this match, and you can tell that RVD and Sabu, it's been a while since they've teamed up. The chemistry kind of wasn't there, and that their days of like they're past their prime a little bit. But for RVD as well, he was still growing good. There were a lot of spots because I remember hearing about the fact that RVD, there's something with his eye where the reason that he can't return into WWE ever again is because he can't see like peripherally out of one of the eyes. And you can kind of tell throughout this match where he should have seen Pentagon or he should have seen Phoenix right out of the corner, and all of a sudden he was just like blindsided a lot of the time. So he can still go, he can still do a lot of spots, but really the Lucha Brothers, they kind of carried them. It was still a good show from them, but it was kind of they did what they could. And production, again, I'll mention the production again because they did this table spot, like RVD and Sabu did a dual dive onto the tables for the Lucha Brothers, and the table was already breaking down, so you knew it was going to break regardless, and Phoenix was just trying to get up on it. It was sad. I had fun with this whole United We Stand card. I think just for the concept, because I haven't seen it before. I feel like if I was joined alongside my lovely partner Greg, he'd probably, because he's seen the first United We Stand, he'd probably call it like BS and stuff. But again, I'm trying to please everybody here. The match ended. Lucha Brothers hit a Spike Fear Factor power driver onto Sabu. They threw RVD onto the outside, and that's how they won the match. There was a nice little shaking the hands, mark of respect between the ECW tag team and the Impact Tag Team Champions. Overall, it was a good, solid wrestling show for Impact. It would have been great if you were there, but production-wise, for people watching it and streaming it, this was shit. Impact need to really work on this if they are to stay afloat, because I think we envision that, like, if they don't pick up their game, like, they are moving in the right direction, but if they don't pick up their game, we might not see another Impact Wrestling next year or the year after. But overall, I had fun with Impact United We Stand. There were some great moments. I think the worst one, though, would have to be just the production itself kind of dampened a lot of the matches. If I had to pick a really bad match, I would honestly go for the Low-Key match, which I hate to say because I love Low-Key. And yeah, the main event even. But you know what? RVD was solid, and who knows, we might be seeing more of him. Hint, hint, not judge. We'll talk about that in a second. So that was United We Stand, guys.
Promotional consideration paid for by the following.
Hey guys, just a reminder, if you want to hear all of these wonderful B Plus podcast episodes completely ad-free, make sure you head over to Patreon or Podbean, where we are the featured podcast this week. You can subscribe for as little as $1 a month up to $10 a month, where anything you want to help us with, it really helps out. It's going to help us grow the site. It's going to help us redesign some things, and everything that we get through this and through the advertising as well is all going straight back into the podcast so that we can get Aussie Graps out there for the rest of the world to hear about, for the rest of the world to see, so we can grow this mission of watch global, support local, and build indie wrestling. So if you want to be a part of that and get some really cool rewards like call-in shows, bonus episodes, ad-free like I mentioned, then head over to patreon.com/theb+ and subscribe today. Hey everyone, just want to take a second to tell you about one of our new sponsors, OUTBREAK Nutrition. OUTBREAK Nutrition are creating supplements for survival, sharper minds, quicker reflexes, all the energy you need to take your performance to the next level, whether that be on the field, in the gym, on the gaming field. That's right, they have specifically designed gaming supplements as well to help you focus on those late night sessions. They even sell coffee, you guys, at OUTBREAK Nutrition. You can get coffee pods, you can get coffee beans, you can get supplements for the bedroom as well if you want to enhance your performance there. These are performance enhancing supplements for every aspect of your life, specifically designed by gamers, for gamers, to stay fit and healthy in the gym, to stay sharp and focused on the game, and to dominate in all areas of life. So check out OutbreakNutrition.com, and for being a listener of our podcast, they will give you 10% off your order when you enter the code B+. That is BPLUS at checkout. So make sure, if you want to stay on top of your game, if you want to take your performance to the next level, OutbreakNutrition.com, enter the code B+ at checkout.
And we had another episode of Impact Wrestling the very next day, all the way in Wisconsin, Alberta, Canada. And this is a big one as well because I believe Lance Storm, this is his first production. That he was behind the camera as a producer for this one. You could instantly tell the production was better. Like, obviously, like, it's a whole show when there's multiple people behind the event, but you know what? Just the fact that they were in this bigger venue, they had this really awesome eagle eye shot of the fans in the Impact Zone. It was really awesome, and you can tell just everything seemed to click a lot more than what they put on just the day earlier. So we started out we had United We Stand. We started out with the Ultimate X match, and it seems like we're not done with seeing the X Division stars just completely go at it, because we started out with just a 6-man X Division scramble, just cause. We had Trey Miguel of the Rascals, or just Trey, going up against Jake Christ, Idris Abraham, Aiden Prince, Ace Austin, and Petey Williams, hometown hero Petey Williams, aka the Canadian Destroyer. The Canadian Destroyer. There's a reason for that. And he's a former X Division champion. It was good to again, like you could hear the crowd for this one. It makes so much of a difference for people watching and just getting into this whole thing. We had the X Division match start in the chaos with Petey Williams tackling Jake, mounting with punches, while the other participants, they pulled one another into waistlocks and stuff. Thankfully, Ace Austin didn't do like a really crazy spot like he did the day before. But Jake Christ entered the match. He gave a Death Valley driver to Miguel. Abraham came back and hit a like Blue Thunder Bomb onto Abraham. This whole match, like from start to finish, you could not keep up with it, and in the best way possible. And then again, like I said, they didn't mention the fact that Johnny Impact won the X Division Ultimate X match. So again, we don't know exactly when he will finally use that advantage. But this match, the participants set up in the corner for a huge 4-man combination move. Trey Miguel nailed the double stomp, but then he was caught in a Canadian destroyer by Williams. In all the confusion, Petey Williams actually won with a big top turnbuckle Super Canadian destroyer for the 1, 2, 3. Petey Williams is back, hopefully for a bit more of a longer time. Maybe it just might be for this segment of Impact Wrestling for these tapings. Hopefully, I'd love to see some of the older guys that I'm more familiar with because I had a break from Impact a little while ago. We got backstage to LAX kind of drinking together. Conan's telling Ortiz and Santana that they're going to earn their respect, just kind of the usual stuff that we've heard from them. Ortiz was kind of like, I don't know, man, I think we crossed the line. And bloody Conan is just like, no, they crossed the line. Like, he's the jilted lover in this whole story. Like, Santana and Ortiz, like, they're just kind of going along with it at this point, which is weird because it seemed like at some point they were going to turn on Conan. But you know what? They said their bit. They said the whole, they said their whole scarecrow thing. And I love Santana just saying that. I knew you were going to say that, but it makes so much sense. It's just, they're getting it in there. They keep, I'm sure that Greg would love, like, be popping right now when he finally watches it. But yeah, nothing we don't already know. It was just a nice little segment there. Also backstage, we have Melissa Santos is interviewing Taya Valkyrie, saying that she won't, and Taya saying she won't be giving Jordan Grace another opportunity to get the Knockouts title because she doesn't deserve it. And that summons the Queen Bee. Madison Rayne is back in Impact Wrestling. And Taya did this thing where she's like, the last time I saw you, you were stuck in the undead realm. And Rayne says, like, no, she wasn't lost there. She was somewhere much, much worse. And she paused and she was insinuating, she didn't mention Ring of Honor, but that was the joke. And I spat out my drink. It just the setup for that, even you can tell Taya and Melissa, they were trying hard not to laugh when she did that. It was like perfect comedic timing for that one. But yeah, she's sizing up the women's champion, and then out comes Jordan Grace. They have a little bit of a tussle, and then Taya's like, you know what? Whoever wins out of you two tonight, I'll give a shot at Rebellion. You know, I'm out of this. Like, you two figure it out. And sure enough, that's our match. We had Madison Rayne going up against Jordan Grace for the number one contendership for the Impact Knockouts title. And yeah, I did not expect Madison Rayne to just randomly appear like this, but you know what? It's good to see the Queen Bee back. We had a tag match, OVE going up against Rich Swann and Willie Mack. So with the team of Madman Fulton and Sami Callihan. Sami came out. I laughed at this so hard. Madman had him on it. He was piggybacking like bloody Sami Callihan. If they keep this up, like, please keep this up. I had a good chuckle with this one. Like, I don't know. They had a pretty good showing, I will say. Madman, they didn't make him seem like he seemed like a controllable monster. He was an all-out savage. I wasn't sure exactly what they were going to go for throughout this match. But you know what? Like, over here, they were like taking out Willie Mack, and they were kind of focusing on Rich Swann, a cleanly shaven Rich Swann. That kind of threw me off because I think he had the beard like yesterday for United We Stand, and then today he's just like, oh, I'm going to shave it before I get to the Impact Zone. Like, whatever. Again, minimal spit spots. Thank God. I was really glad about that one. Swan came in with a hot tag, like super kicking like Fulton and Callahan. He did a lethal injection onto Callahan. Like, he avoided Callahan avoided a Phoenix Splash from Swan. There was a good spot where Swan attempted a Frankensteiner. I haven't seen this done before. I actually quite like this. But Madman Fulton actually held Callahan back so that Swan couldn't do it. And then Fulton helped him. Callahan did a massive powerbomb, like, in the confusion. Mac then saved Swan from a pile driver. Like, I think Sami Callahan in this match, he kept trying to set up his thumbs up, thumbs down for a good, 7, 8 times. Like, just the setup of the thumbs up, thumbs down. He should have just said screw it and just did the freaking pile driver. Like, there were so many times that he just kept, no, I'm going to keep doing it. I'm going to do it right. Sure enough, that he finally is able to do it. So Fulton catches Swan midair, helps Callahan hit the pile driver. 1, 2, 3, OVE are the winners in this one. They try and attack Willie Mack and Rich Swann again after the match. And then who will come out but Tommy Dreamer? Again, like, Tommy Dreamer's just like, we need an extra person in this feud. Who we're going to get? Tommy Dreamer. He is a former... he is one of the backstage people now in Impact. And it feels like, yeah, let's just throw him in there just because. Which, we were talking about this last week as well, how there's four people in OVE, and there's 3 people in, like, the group between Swan, Mac, and, like, Tommy Dreamer. It doesn't feel like Tommy is the right person in this, because Madman Fulton is meant to be this big beast of a man, and I don't see Dreamer being much backup, because we've seen OVE face off against this 6-man team, and they beat them already. Like, I don't know so unless they get someone else, I don't see what they're gonna offer, unless they let Jake Christ just do his own thing in the X division, where he's not a part of this story, which I don't know why you wouldn't want him, because he is, like, one of the people that drives the matches with OVE. We'll have to see. Like, again, it wasn't terrible that Dreamer showed up, but it was definitely, like, a bit disappointing. Like, oh, you're going with Dreamer again? Like, okay, I'll go with it. I love the fact that Madman Fulton, like, he didn't cower away from Tommy Dreamer. So after Tommy hit one of the Chris brothers, he was gonna size up Madman, and, like, Madman was all for it, but then Sami Callahan grabbed him by the back of his, like, dreads and was, like, dragging him back. Just like, no, brother, not yet. Being protective of his new brother? Like, I don't know, like, because it's an OVE cult. Like, who knows? But yeah, that's what happened there. After this, I nearly went this entire episode without seeing this bloody guy, but you know what? Rolando Menendez, investigative reporter, is back, and I'm not a fan of him. I'm glad, though, in this, he was only here the one episode, that he was only in the one segment of this Impact episode, and most of it was Johnny Impact telling him off, calling him an idiot, and you know what? I should be hating Johnny Impact right now, but this made me, I'll allow this segment because it's making Rolando Menendez look like a complete simpleton. I'll allow it. Like, I think that's one of the reasons I still enjoyed United We Stand, because it had no Rolando Menendez. I just do not like that guy. Hopefully we can continue this trend going forward with the Impact tapings. But yeah, like, they cut to Rolando. They were saying he had a big scoop, like a big news story, but he had no one there. Like, I have this same issue with MLW, with their interviewer. So just the way they set up things for the backstage interviews, and they don't actually have anything set up. But anyway, I'm rambling here. So he's talking to Johnny Impact and explaining to him how his actions have been trying to trick everyone this entire time. And Johnny, I will say, this promo here, we've been mentioning for the past couple of weeks that we don't like Johnny Impact's story, like his whole acting as a heel rather than actually committing to being a heel. But in this instance, he enjoyed scaring the shit out of Rolando. And he's saying that what's the point of being smarter than everyone if you don't take advantage of it? He insults Ronaldo a little bit more, and then out comes Killer Cross. And I love this whole dynamic, and sure enough, we now know exactly what's happening here. He promised Killer Cross a title shot. Big surprise. This is what's keeping him keeping him in the service of Johnny. I don't know if they're going to still be a team. I feel like it's a tag team for now. And he's saying like, "Oh, you're going to give me a title shot." Like I'm doing a bad Killer Cross impression, but he's saying that you're definitely going to give me a shot because there's going to be a big toll to pay when it's going to finally come due soon. So yeah, I'm not sure exactly when that will be. We have like Bound for Glory coming up later on after Rebellion. We still have a little while to go with that one. I would laugh if again, because Johnny has the X Division Championship opportunity, he loses the title, he wins the X Division title, but he's pissed off at Johnny, and he just they still have their feud there, and then the world title seed is completely free for someone else to feud with Brian Cage. Who knows? This is just me, like, bad booking. Who knows? We cut to Moose joining the Rascals in their clubhouse, their smoking circle, whatever they have. And Trey's got a black eye. He's wearing glasses in their whole things. He's like, I don't want to talk about it. And Moose brings in his girlfriend, Vanessa, whatever her name is, as Moose refers to her, saying that he's going to beat up Wentz next week, and then he's going to spruce up the clubhouse some more, just because I like this relationship. I kick your ass, and then I help you guys out. It's like, whatever. Like, again, Moose is just, whatever they're doing with him, it's just weird. They're just finding ways to keep him on TV now. I'll allow it just because it's giving him something to do. But poor Rascals, man, it's going to be like Moose Strong Rascals week, probably next week. We'll see how we go. Rosemary we're back to the Undead Realm, I think, for this one. So Rosemary is going through the cemetery in memory of Ali, avenge the fallen, as we said last week, recounting what happened last time. Kevin Sullivan appeared, and I don't know if this was a reveal or he meant this symbolically, but he said he called her his daughter, and Rosemary actually called him father. But the whole cultish undertones, the undead realm and everything else, I don't know if they mean biologically, because they didn't really clarify that. I feel like they were trying to go for no, you are my daughter, kind of segment, which they should have clarified that some more, because it feels like a brotherhood, like father kind of thing. But Rosemary finds Ali's grave. She says that it's actually Kiera Hogan's fault that Ali's dead because she was distracting her, which the Firefly got in the way. That's pretty much what happened. But she's also promising to get revenge on Hogan, promising revenge on Sue Young, promising revenge on her father. At the moment, I feel like she's focused more on Hogan. She's trying to blame somebody, and once they resolve their differences, then they will go back to the Undead Realm or go after Kevin Sullivan again, her quote-unquote father. Again, very unclear. Hopefully they'll clarify that in the next couple of weeks. We had Jordan Grace go up against Madison Rayne for the number one contendership for the Knockouts Championship. And surprisingly, Jordan Grace came out the victor for this. We were thinking that the moment Madison Rayne came back, she'd be fresh into the title picture. But no, the story between Jordan and Taya is still going on. And you know what? Madison hasn't lost anything because she's been away for a while. She can still do some other stuff in the meantime. But yeah, these two had a really good showing. Ray's finally let down Grace with a big crossbody. Rayne reversed Grace and put her into a sleeper hold, and but just Jordan Grace kept using her power throughout this match. Madison Rayne kept finding ways to counter her and reverse things, but Rayne hit the crucifix pin for her, her big driver. after for another near fall. And as things went down, Grace finally connected with the Grace driver. 1, 2, 3. She is once again the number 1 contender, which fair play. Congratulations to her. We need to see more of her. After the match, Taya came down to the ring and attacked Grace from behind. She was trying to do heelish things, like her husband Johnny came out. And then just before all that, the Machine comes out. We hear his music, and I wouldn't be surprised to see a intergender tag match with Johnny and Taya going against Brian Cage and Jordan Grace. I feel like that's going to happen either next week or the week after. Feels safe to say. And that would be a really good time because, yeah, like Jordan Grace, apparently the daughter of Scott Steiner, they were saying on the Wikipedia thing, that the commentary was weird for this episode. Like, I'm not going to lie. We had a couple other matches before we finished, guys. We had Rohit Raju, I'm probably mispronouncing it, going against Fallah Bahh without his tag team partner and not continuing the knee storyline, the bad knee. I don't know what they're doing with them. This is just a throwaway match, it feels like. But Raja gets the first hit after the match, like at the start of the match, distracts Bahh from the outside. Bahh's unfazed because of his big man, he's small man type thing. The match ended Bahh delivered a Samoan drop and tried to do his big banzai drop, but Singh distracted the referee and allowed Rohit a window to attack Bahh. Rohit actually did a big roll up, and yeah, with the rope assist, they got their win back, which it's been a while since the Desi Hit Squad have actually got a win, so it was enough to keep them going. I don't mind it. And then all of a sudden, we hear familiar music, and out comes the Smoke Show, Scarlett Bordeaux. She comes down to the ring and distracts the Desi Hit Squad, allowing Bahh to take them out. Bordeaux hits a running hip attack onto Raj to finish them off. Bahh was going to do it, but then Scarlett's no, let me. And we have this weird mesh up between Fallah Bahh and Scarlett Bordeaux. I don't speak Bahh, but I'm sure he was pretty happy about this alliance. Let us know what this relationship, if you want to call it, is going to be called. Bahh Bordeaux. I'm trying to think of a nice amalgamation, but I'll leave that up to you guys. Let us know what this team up between Fallah Bahh and Scarlett Bordeaux should be called, because someone's going to think of something really creative. We had Cody and Jake Dina receiving new Impact contracts. We had a couple people actually announce that they're going to be having new contracts. Josh Matthews announced that Swan and Callahan will compete once again at Rebellion for the X Division title, as I mentioned earlier. We saw a video package about Gail Kim, and then we cut to Tessa Blanchard backstage, bad-mouthing the legends from history, saying that she was legend for her era, which makes me think that, again, Madison Rayne might be her next target after Gail Kim. She's targeting legends, people, the older generation of Knockouts performers. We'll go with it. And then we ended this episode of Impact with the main event, Eddie Edwards and Eli Drake going up against LAX. This one was fun. This is one where LAX, they could do all the shit they were supposed to do at United We Stand, but they didn't get to. And we saw, originally Conan came out with them, but then Eli Drake coaxed Conan, he started to punch Conan, Conan blocked it, he hit Eli, and he was ejected from the match. Which, yeah, and they're just oh no, their lucky charm, Conan is not there, how will they do without him? But LAX, they were just crushing it. They are the best tag team in Impact Wrestling, which is a title that they fight for with the Lucha Brothers constantly. But it's kind of safe to say that LAX in this instance, yeah, they were crushing it. They constant combinations of cutters and code breakers and super kicks, and it was so much fun. It ended Impact Wrestling on a really great note. Both teams continually worked in tandem, doing all these big combo moves. And the match ended with LAX trying for the Street Swiper, but then the Lucha Bros suddenly ended up coming down to the ring. Santana did a big swanton over the ropes onto the Lucha Brothers, which gave enough distraction for Drake to hit Ortiz with the kendo stick with Kenny, the best Kenny in the business, they're saying. Edwards finishes up with a Boston Knee Party for the win. 1, 2, 3, they've defeated LAX, and then after the match, the Lucha Brothers, like, they get their win back, quote unquote, by putting those guys through a table and, like, to make up for last week when they got put through the table. And that was Impact Wrestling, which all in all, if you think about it, because we had the non-canon United We Stand and this, it was it's a nice little thing for Impact that it was there, but they weren't, with this whole encompassing WrestleMania week, they knew where they were in the whole lineup, so they didn't go for the big shock and awe. But next time, guys, seriously, up your game with production, and you have the talent, you have the staff to put on a great show. Next time, up your game. That was Impact Wrestling, guys. Thank you guys so much for listening. If you want to follow me, I'm at Mr. Mysterious 107i on all the socials. Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. Hit me up. We'll have a good old chat about the Impact Zone here. If you want to follow Greg and tell him that he needs to be here for next week because, damn it, I miss him, you can follow him at Greg Unchained on Twitter or at the Greg Unchained on Instagram. If you want to follow us collectively at the B+, because why wouldn't you? I think we're an okay bunch. You can follow us at the B+ Wrestler on Twitter because wrestling wouldn't fit, and the B+ Wrestling everywhere else. And remember, guys, as always, we have our Patreon. Please, if you can able to, donate whatever you can so we can keep giving you guys the best content, what you want, when you want, and cover everything in this wacky, weird world that we call professional wrestling. Like, share, subscribe, hit that 5-star review. Thank you guys so much for listening. I've been Mr. Mysterious for the Impact Zone, and I'll see you later.
Hold one. Arm drag. You're not doing this. Get out. Let me tell you a personal story about Vince McMahon. You just made the list. Oh my God.
So, no speak English.
Dummy. Yeah.
Goodbye and good night.
Hold two. Arm bar.
This is the worst town I've ever been in.
It's still real to me, damn it. Dummy. Yeah. Hold three. The moss covered. Three-handle family Granunzo.